The fifth leading scorer in the division piled up 21 touchdowns and more than 1,500 yards, leading the Vikings to their first ever undefeated season. East Bridgewater, Matignon for the Eastern Mass Division IV title next on NESN. For Super Bowl, the Matignon Warriors take on the East Bridgewater Vikings.
Bridgewater High School Vikings.
East Bridgewater is 9-0. Matignon is 9-1. It is the first time in the Super Bowl for both teams. We're going to see two of the best running backs in the state, Dan Lupo for Matignon and Tyler McDonald for East Bridgewater. Tom Larson along with Gerard Phelan, of course, and Lupo, the leading scorer in Division IV this year.
He's remarkable. He has 29 touchdowns on the year, 6 of those in one football game. And one of the things that East Bridgewater is most worried about, particularly Ron St. George, the coach for East Bridgewater, is containing the outside running of Dan Lupo. If they can do that, they'll be on their way to a victory. Tyler McDonald is the kid for East Bridgewater. He's only 15 years old. In the last 5 games, though, he has scored 15 touchdowns. He's hurt a little bit. He is a remarkable talent, and if they lose him, he's got a knee problem. Then the slack will be picked up by McManus and Burkett. But having him out of the lineup surely will be a shot to East Bridgewater's attack. Matignon has a considerable size advantage, and I know that East Bridgewater coach Ron St. George is a little bit concerned about that. He is hoping that their speed and quickness will be able to overcome the size that Matignon has. The other thing is the enthusiasm of playing in a Super Bowl game. We saw East Bridgewater come out for warm-ups, and they were in a regimen of 2 lines. They came out and they worked their warm-ups very disciplined as well. So if they can bring that discipline onto the football field, they can more than compensate for their lack of size. East Bridgewater and Matignon, Division IV Eastern Massachusetts Super Bowl at Nickerson Field. We'll be back with the opening kickoff and the starting lineups in a moment. For the start of the Division IV Super Bowl game between East Bridgewater's Vikings and the Matignon Warriors. East Bridgewater in the blue and the gold. They look a lot like UCLA with their colors. Matignon is kicking off. That is Pat Moriarty doing the kicking. Short end-over-end kick, only to the 26-yard line. Returned by one of the short men for East Bridgewater. He is taken down at the 38-yard line. 1st and 10 there for the Vikings. Brian Tyrrell on the return for the Vikings. Beautiful day at Nickerson Field. Sunny, cool, temperature right around 50 degrees. Winds out of the northeast at 12 to 15 miles per hour. But all of these teams that we will see here, both of these and the Division V game, tend to keep the ball on the ground, so the wind would only be a factor in the kicking game. And we'll get a test earlier to see if Tyler McDonald, the #1 runner, number 24 in the I formation's knee is okay and ready to go. He gets the first call, tries to turn it to the outside, cuts in, and McDonald is on his way. 40-yard line down at the 35. Big gain, East Bridgewater, first play of the game. 23-yard carry. Well, it seems as if his knee is just fine. He's in the I formation. It's a ISO on the linebacker, and he cuts it back to the outside. I guess he's got some speed and showing some good cutting upfield right there. Splits 2 defenders, and now it's just a foot race down there with Brian Hardy, who eventually brings him down after 23 yards and a first down. 1st and 10, Vikings, 9-0-0 for the regular season. McManus in motion, the I formation behind the quarterback post, and they try the middle for short yardage. Ron St. George, East Bridgewater coach, said just before the game that McDonald's knee had been bothering him all week. They were going to try him and see how it went. He said he was real concerned, and there is Coach St. George of East Bridgewater. He was very concerned that if Matignon was able to shut down their outside game, that because of Matignon's size, if they had to go up the middle, that they could be in some trouble. Well, they were able to go outside their first drive. 2nd down and 9 for East Bridgewater at the Matignon 37-36-yard line. Wing back to the left side is McManus, and the pitch to McDonald again. Tries the left side this time and is down at the 34-yard line. That will be a short gain. Brian Hardy makes the tackle again. Darren Burkett, the wingback on that side, had a block, could have thrown it on the corner for Tyler McDonald. Get a look at it here. Here's 34 out here, gets a little brush block. Now if he waits, McDonald waits for him to come around and take up the cornerback. Brian Hardy, he could have turned the corner and taken it to the house. 3rd down and 6, the Vikings. The other side in the gold, the Warriors of Matignon. Right end split, wing back, right side. Throw it out to the right,
for Willie Lawler. Gets away from one tackler, and Lawler is down at the 32-yard line. That's a rarity for East Bridgewater. They put the ball in the air.
Well, in high school football, the average punt is somewhere in the 25-30 zone, so it'll be interesting to see if they do this. This is just a quick screen right here. They pull the whole offensive line on that side. He catches the ball. It's supposed to come back inside with the football. Matignon is there for the tackle. Stephen Buckley, number 66.
On 4th and 4, Vikings will try it. Wing back to the left side. Left end split. Student body left for McDonald. Cuts it back. First down, East Bridgewater to the Matignon 20-yard line. Fourth and 4. They went for it, and they got it. Warren Pierce makes the tackle for Matignon.
Student body right is right. There you see your lead blocker, Darnell Burkett. And he cuts it back inside. He's got great ability to run north and south. Tyler McDonald does. He takes it past the yard marker, and the Vikings are moving.
They are to the 19-yard line of Matignon. And it's been all Tyler McDonald. Ends tight, full house, I formation behind quarterback Mark Post. McDonald again. Starts outside, cuts inside, powers to the 14-yard line. That'll be a gain of 5 more for Tyler McDonald.
Coming into this football game, Tyler McDonald had 201 carries for 1,557 yards. He's now over 1,600 yards on the season. 7.7-yard average and 19 touchdowns.
Only a junior, by the way, 15 years old. 1,557 yards, averaging over 7.5 yards per carry. Again, the full house I formation ends tight, post, handoff. McDonald, he's inside the 10, down to the 6-yard line. The ball comes loose, but it had been blown dead. Now the first half of their game against Norton on Thanksgiving Day. First 3 possessions. East Bridgewater punched it in. It took no more than 5 plays each time, and everything on the ground. They threw not a single pass in the first half of that game. Quarterback Mark Post gets a real workout through the game because he is over to the sideline after every play, getting the next play from Ron St. George. First down and goal for East Bridgewater in the first quarter of this Division IV Super Bowl game. McDonald again. Touchdown, East Bridgewater. They take the opening kickoff down the field, everything on the ground with the exception of one pass that netted only 2 yards, and Tyler McDonald scores from 6 yards out, 6-0 East Bridgewater.
At the top of the show, we talked about him being a key in this football game, and from the start, he absolutely dominated that drive. Jack Radcliffe, the head coach for Matignon, coming in, said, I'm concerned about our defense. I know we can score offensively, but their defense was almost non-existent as Tyler McDonald runs all over him.
McManus, who has a good leg, pumps the extra point through, and East Bridgewater has started the ball game with an impressive drive, touchdown, extra point. They lead Matignon 7-0 with 6 minutes and 58 seconds to go in the first quarter.
Here's the replay right here. The leading back coming through the hole. Eric Giesler makes a nice block on the linebacker, opens it up for Tyler McDonald, and 6 points. There we go, right at you. 5'9", 175 pounds, ability to run outside, change direction without changing speed, and run people over.
Last 5 games, Tyler McDonald has scored 15 touchdowns, rushed for 878 yards. So he is averaging 3 touchdowns and 176 yards per game for those last 5. If there was any question about his health at the start of the game, I don't think there is anymore.
Well, how about size? They ran that tackle trap and ISO right up the middle, right at Matignon from the beginning. And it was a successful play for him, a play that they scored a touchdown on. I'm very impressed with the discipline and execution of this East Bridgewater football team.
Brian McManus will kick off. Deep for Matignon, Lupo, Hardy, and Mahoney. And that is Lupo. He looked over at the referee, wasn't sure that the play was going on. Takes it out to the 20, to the 23-yard line. East Bridgewater's indicating a fumble and that they may have recovered. But apparently not.
Tom, special teams often are lacking in high school, but that is a big league kick right there by Dennis Toner. Lupo looks at the official. He thinks he's in the end zone. That's the only thing I can figure out. And then all of a sudden he realizes he's not and decides to run the football.
Returns it to the 22-yard line. Matignon, 1st and 10, and their first offensive series now. They give the handoff straight ahead for Pat Moriarty, the fullback. Brings it out to the 28-yard line, 29-yard line. That's a gain of 6. Moriarty, 6'2", or 6'1", 210-pound fullback. 2nd down and 4. Matignon from their own 28-yard line. Hand off up to the 30. And Lupo hasn't carried the ball yet. That was Moriarty again. 8 plays, 59 yards, 4 minutes and 7 seconds on that East Bridgewater scoring drive. McDonald went 6 yards, and McManus kicks the extra point with a 7-0 lead for the Vikings. 29-yard line for Matignon. Here's Lupo. Gets away from a tackler and is out to the 34-yard line. That'll be 1st and 10 for the Warriors. 5 minutes and 44 seconds to go. First quarter. Division IV Super Bowl championship. Massive numbers for that man, averaging 14.5 yards per carry. 25 rushing touchdowns. He has a total of 29 for the season.
You saw a display of some of his talent right there, just in his balance. That's obviously uncoachable. You try and get a back like that who's got raw talent and balance and speed, and you get him to follow your big lineman down there, and you really have got an offensive threat.
This is a good-sized offensive line for Matignon. On the keep, quarterback is Quinlan. Rolls left, gets by McManus. Quinlan is on his way. Touchdown, Matignon. No flags. That was 65 yards, and both teams have scored on their first possessions. Jeff Quinlan, the quarterback, senior, 6'1" and 185, had a 5-yard touchdown run against Worcester North, but has not been that kind of a threat all year. Here's that one again.
Here's the replay. You got to see Stephen Buckley, number 66, downfield blocking right here. That's the one that springs him. He gets at his feet, makes him overrun the play, and then Jeff Quinlan cuts it back up inside for the touchdown.
7-6. Matignon tries for the 2. Lupo is in. Matignon leads 8-7. Touchdowns both ways in the first 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and 52 seconds of the game. It's 8-7 Matignon.
Like a couple of prize fighters boxing it out there on the ground. McDonald on his first drive had 6 carries and 41 yards, and that time the big play delivered from Jeffrey Quinlan, number 14, the quarterback for Matignon. We have yet to see the ball's been in the air only one time on a short screen play, a high percentage pass out to the wide receiver. Other than that, it's all been done on the ground. And I think these guys kicking off for Matignon, Dennis Toner and Brian McManus, are going to be very busy today, if the early play is any indication of the rest of the ball game.
There have been some really high-scoring games in Division V. If this one goes the rest of the morning, the way it has started, we'll have another one. Another short and end-over-end kick at the 25-yard line. That's Tyrell. He's moving around in there, out the 50-yard line, 45, and down at the 40-yard line. Huge hunks of offense in the early going of this game between Matignon and East Bridgewater. Brian Hardy makes the tackle. That was John Trombley with the return for East Bridgewater.
You have to be impressed with the blocking that's going on downfield. There you see a block right by number 55, Jason Trombley, blocking for his twin brother, Jonathan Trombley, springing him to the outside for a big kickoff return.
35 yards. Seldom see those when the kick is short that way. Tight end split. Wingback right side is McManus. Pitch for McDonald. He's going to be working. He is hit and taken down for a loss back at the 44-yard line. That's a loss of 4 by Dave Dakin for Matignon.
One of the key fundamentals in stopping a rushing game is penetration. And you're seeing it right there. All the people ran right by him. First time we've seen an offensive play that go for negative production.
4 minutes, 28 seconds to go in the first quarter. Matignon 8, East Bridgewater 7. Wing back right, I formation. McManus comes from his wing back spot, and he's taken down for a loss of another 2. Vikings drive this time going the wrong way. 4 minutes and 6 seconds to go.
They're just shooting the gaps right now. This is Peter Avalelli coming in right here, number 33, and then from the backside is Stephen Buckley, 66. There's just no place for McManus to go.
I promised I'd get this in. McManus wears the same number that my good friend Pete Eastman wore when he was playing at East Bridgewater a few years ago. Number 35. I know Pete's here somewhere. Wing back, right side. That one's thrown up in the air and should have been intercepted. Had it and lost it. Matignon's Dave Dakin. Joe Zalewski was in on the pressure on Mark Post. Uncharacteristically, East Bridgewater has put the ball in the air twice, and they have 4th down now and 16 yards to go. In their Thanksgiving game against Norton, they were running the ball on 3rd and 12. And the whistle. Got a timeout here called for by somebody. Matignon has called for timeout on 4th down and 16 for East Bridgewater. So the Vikings gather around Coach Ron St. George on the near sideline. Take a look at the Super Bowl ratings, as the contestants are determined mathematically on the basis of wins, also based on the records of teams that they have played and teams that they might play divisions higher than Division 4. East Bridgewater with a rating of 19.78. Matignon at 9-1. Even though they lost a game, they played some teams, their first 2 of the season, Sharon and Newton South, a division above them, won 1 and lost 1. Their only loss was Newton South. Matignon came in with a rating of 16.8. beating out other teams with 9-1 records. Archbishop Williams, which has been here before, and Westwood, Holliston, which is a fairly regular Division IV Super Bowl participant. As a matter of fact, Holliston knocked Westwood out of this game on Thanksgiving Day. Westwood had gone in unbeaten, and Holliston, with 1 loss, knocked them off, or they would have been here. McManus back to punt, waits for the snap at his own 42-yard line. Takes a lot of time. High kick, not long, just barely got it away. Takes a lateral and a reverse hop and is downed at the Matignon 26-yard line by Scott Hunter. 1st and 10 for Matignon at their own 26.
You talk about the rating system. A lot of the teams each year are not really sure going into the season whether or not, if they go undefeated, they'll make the Super Bowl. It has happened with this rating point system that teams have gone undefeated and not made it to the Super Bowl simply based on their schedule outside their division and how many wins that they have. But to now, it's been an effective system.
And off, Pat Moriarty. For Matignon to the 38-yard line. That's 1st and 10 for the Warriors. Yeah, a lot of it has to do with the records. Like East Bridgewater, I think, has played 5 different teams that went into Thanksgiving with records 7-2, so they benefit tremendously from the fact that they've beaten some excellent teams.
It only makes sense that it's done that way because these teams come from around the state, particularly on the East Coast, so they can't possibly play similar opponents.
No common opponents at all. Vikings had a man across, and flags are down for the first time in the football game with 2 minutes and 51 seconds to go here in the first quarter. 3 first downs for Matignon, 1 so far for East Bridgewater. Sorry, 3 for East Bridgewater and 1 for Matignon. That's quarterback Jeff Quinlan, who has scored the touchdown, a 65-yard run. Offsides, Don Thrasher, the referee, calls it against the Vikings.
Those points scored by Matignon were the first points ever given up this year by East Bridgewater in the first quarter.
That's something. But when you get to this point, you're playing the best. Things tend to even out. Wing back right. Little inside reverse to the 46-yard line. Pat Mahoney, the ball carrier for the Vikings. He totes it out to the 46-yard line. It's going to be 2nd down and 2.
At the open, we talked about East Bridgewater's lack of size, and they're going to make it up with enthusiasm and speed. And I think what's going on here is they're just trying to take advantage of their over-aggressiveness and run a reverse, and it just didn't work. They're disciplined and enthusiastic. That's the key to a winner.
Lupo, right side. Hit down at the 48-yard line. McManus makes the tackle. 1st and 10 again for Matignon. Coach Jack Radcliffe of the Matignon Warriors showing a lot of his people. We expected to see Lupo, and we've seen him, but we've also seen Quinlan and Mahoney and Moriarty. Lupo, excellent hockey player. You look at his number 7 there. He's already signed a letter of intent to play hockey at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Jack Radcliffe. Snap to Quinlan. Handoff for Moriarty to the 45-yard line. The Nebraska Cornhuskers had shown interest in Lupo. At one point this season, he said that if Nebraska offered him a full boat, that he would sign on the spot. But since he hasn't signed a football letter of intent, he still has that option, Gerard.
That's right. He can basically do anything he wants. They have the letter of intent just to get the player to sign and start thinking about coming to school. But Nebraska would be a great football program for him to get into. It's a speed program and a rushing program, and with his talents, they could highlight him. That's
Lupo. Powers up the middle to the East Bridgewater 38-yard line. That's going to be very close to a 1st and 10. Lupo broke the school record for touchdowns, scoring 29 this year. And the old record was held by a pretty fair player who went on to play for the Patriots. Art Graham scored 28 back in 58.
Lupo will do this often. He'll put his big back right in there, Patrick Moriarty, to block the linebacker, and then they'll allow Dan Lupo to make a decision right or left, or even bounce it outside sometimes. Matignon has a 1st down as they brought off the chains. Oftentimes when you have a tailback who has a lot of speed, because of the disparity of speed in the high school game, it can be a tremendous advantage. So if you're running up the middle and there's nothing there, oftentimes they utilize the speed, bounce it to the outside, and find something out there.
Ron St. George, the East Bridgewater coach, thought his team had a speed and quickness advantage. Here is the handoff for Matt Mahoney, and Mahoney is down to the East Bridgewater 28-yard line. Brian McManus with the tackle, and you will notice that in high school football, most of the kids go both ways. They're on the offensive side, and they're on the defensive side of the ball. Jack Radcliffe.
The offensive linemen rarely get credit for their blocks, but every once in a while you can pick it out. Stephen Buckley, the left guard, and James Walsh, number 51, the right guard, both pulled on that play and kicked out Jason Trombley, allowing the back to cut up inside for the 9-yard gain. And the end of the first quarter of play here at Nickerson Field. The Matignon Warriors lead the Division IV Super Bowl game by a score of 8-7. Coming up on the second quarter of the Division IV Super Bowl game at Nickerson Field, in the gold and the white, the Matignon Warriors. In the blue and the gold on the other side of the ball, the East Bridgewater Vikings. 8-7 the score, Matignon. Dan Lupo, 3 carries, 16 yards in the first quarter. Tyler McDonald, 9 carries, 37 yards, and a touchdown for East Bridgewater. It is 8-7, Matignon. Both teams scored the first time they had the ball. And Matignon starting to get it down deep into East Bridgewater territory. They have it at the Vikings 29-yard line. Tom Larson and Gerard Phelan with the action from Nickerson. Mahoney in motion. Quarterback Quinlan keeps it himself, gets the first down. Another 1st and 10 for Matignon. That'll be their 4th of the morning. The thing that Matignon did defensively against East Bridgewater on their last drive was they began to penetrate the line of scrimmage and get in the backfield before the back could do anything. East Bridgewater should go to school on that philosophy and try and take some gambles and shoot the gaps, because Matignon seems to be unstoppable. They just are pushing the football down the field.
And Matignon has had some successful second quarter action. That is Mahoney, or rather Moriarty again, for East Bridgewater, for Matignon. Taken down by the Vikings at the 24-yard line. There's some concern, too, on the East Bridgewater side on one of their outstanding linebackers, Aaron Danielson, who had a partially separated shoulder. He's one of their co-captains. Danielson's number 53. Lupo fumble in the backfield, gets it back himself, but there will be a loss of about 3 yards on the play.
This is the first time we've seen Matignon go backwards on an offensive play. Get a look at it. That's as close as it comes. It hits his right leg on the handoff, just a bad handoff by Jeffrey Quinlan. Whether or not Lupo was in phase, I don't know. Lupo was looking upfield. He's allowed to do that as the back. It's the quarterback's job, Jeffrey Quinlan, to get Lupo the football, and he handed it off just a bit too low. 3rd and 11, and Matignon hasn't put the ball in the air, but if there was going to be a time, this would be it. Timeout is called for by the Matignon club. East Bridgewater comes all the way over to the side, and we'll talk with Coach Ron St. George. Jeff Quinlan and Dan Lupo head for the sidelines for Matignon. Everybody else stays out there. 8-7, Matignon. Mr. Quinlan has himself an interesting haircut. Yeah, that's right. I tell you, it's really great, this high school football Super Bowl. You know, ever since these guys put on their first helmet and shoulder pads and worked and went out there and played in their communities, it all kind of comes down to this. Eventually, when you get to the next level, and the next level, you get to the high school, and then you want to try and make the Super Bowl. And these guys here are all guys that they played football with throughout their entire life. And to bring a touchdown and a championship back to their town with all the people that you've been playing with over the years is just a remarkable memory for everyone. Here's Quinlan's passing numbers.
Really impressive, huh? 55 for 70 for 8 touchdowns.
Well, if that's a correct statistic, I'd say they have a pretty good chance as far as probability to get a first down here. 5 of 70, that's somewhere in the 75 to 80% range.
They are needing 11 yards. 3rd and 11. Lupo goes in motion. Got a double wing to the right side. They go on a reverse. Ball is loose. East Bridgewater appears to have recovered at the 25-yard line. The turnover. John Trombley came up with it for the Vikings. That is a big, big break.
Well, they put the ball on the ground and played before this, or 2 plays before this, and now with the sweep on the outside, he's just winging it around. There you see the ball go right up, back behind, fall onto the ground, and that's John Trombley recovering the fumble, and a big play for East Bridgewater.
Here comes McDonald again to the 27-yard line. East Bridgewater's defense this year came up with 23 interceptions, 32 sacks in their 10 games. So they have been a big play kind of a ball club.
Kind of interesting how this game is mirroring. East Bridgewater had the ball down in this area in their second drive, and that's where Matignon stopped them, and then all of a sudden East Bridgewater's defense returns the favor on the turnover.
Reverse action for McManus. McManus carries up to the 32-yard line. The fake was to McDonald. The give was to McManus. Dan Lupo up to make the tackle for Matignon from his middle linebacker spot. There's the fake.
Misdirection here. They just fake to the tailback, and they go to the wing back coming back in motion. They try and get the linebackers to slide to the left side on the ISO fake so that the back is out there on his own when he turns the corner.
Scoreboard says 3rd and 2. Full house I formation. Ends tight. McDonald Close to, but appears to be short of the first down at the 35-yard line. And if it's fourth and less than a yard, would be an interesting call for the Vikings. And they're about, looks like Gerard, a foot and a half short.
Probably a reasonable gamble here to go for the first down. There you see the margin that they have to make up on this play. East Bridgewater has only had one play where they've lost yardage, but they're going to go ahead and punt this.
Pretty good punter in Brian McManus.
Well, you want to start thinking about a fake right here. In high school, because they can't punt as far, they might want to consider a fake.
McManus's kick is away, kicks it toward the sideline, takes a high hop, well covered by the Vikings. Just bouncing around at the 46-yard line, Matignon's 46, and it's down there by Scott Hunter. 21-yard punt.
This is one of the problems if you don't move the football. It's all a game of field position, and when your margin of deficit is only 1 point, your offense has to move the football every single time you get it. You don't necessarily have to score, but you can't put your defense in a position where your opposition's offensive field is only 53 yards.
Quinlan drops to throw. Gonna run with it. Hit from behind. Taken down at the East Bridgewater 46-yard line. And that'll be an 8-yard gain. Tackled by Kevin Crawford for East Bridgewater.
Very good discretion right here by Jeff Quinlan, the senior, 6'1", 185. They are covered downfield. He'd have to drill a pass right in there on the string in order to get it completed. Instead, he decides to run it. He recognizes that he doesn't have anything offensively, and he still comes up with a 9-yard production. 2nd and 8
for Matignon. In motion, Mahoney. Mahoney gets the call and the first down to the East Bridgewater 40-yard line. This offensive line for Matignon goes 210, 210, 185, 215, and 235. Defensive line for East Bridgewater, 195, 145, and 165.
I imagine that 145's got an awful lot of heart.
Then you got Jason Trombley at a defensive end at 175 and Clayton Rollins at 190. So you see the size advantage that Matignon has against East Bridgewater. Matignon with the ball and an 8-7 lead. 6:09 to go in the half. Inside handoff, Lupo. Nice tackle. He gains only about a yard. Tony Farini with the stop for the Vikings.
Coming into this game, Tony Farini, a two-way starter, had 72 tackles and 10 sacks. He's your pursuit guy. He's the guy that you got to look for to get into the backfield and stop Dan Lupo. You get a look at the top of your screen. He shoots the gap, gets Lupo as he starts to cut to the right side in the backfield for just a 1-yard gain.
You got to figure there's about a 30-pound per man advantage for Matignon across the front. Quinlan fakes, goes back, throws, complete to Lupo at the 20-yard line, inside the 20 to the 18-yard line. 1st and 10 for the Warriors.
Great play action right here and perfect execution by Matignon. They just slipped their best receiver out there, Dan Lupo, and the guy you want to run with the football. Good protection up front. Jeff Quinlan sets his feet well, throws the ball just above Scott Hunter, number 65, for the completion and a first down.
John Trombley in on the tackle again for East Bridgewater. 5 minutes, 14 seconds to play in the first half. Matignon leading 8-7, threatening for another one. 1st and 10 at the East Bridgewater 17-yard line. Quick, well-played first half. Only one penalty flag so far. Quinlan with the handoff. Very little there that time. Pat Moriarty. George Simmons get on the tackle for the Vikings. Gain of 1, 2nd and 9.
They know their backs are to the wall. They're down by a point. They got to start making things happen. And they just stuffed this up. They didn't allow Matignon to push their front offensive four anywhere. And the back turn the corner, they were there for the tackle.
Lupo shifts in a deep I formation as the tailback. On the draw, he's hit, spins away, hit again! What a smack at the 19-yard line by Aaron Danielson. Big hit.
This may not not be the play that Matignon will try and call again. Jack Radcliffe knows that East Bridgewater's coming into this game keying on Dan Lupo, and they were all over him. Aaron Daniels, 96 tackles coming into this football game with a voracious pop there on Dan Lupo.
His nickname is Deke. His coach, Ron St. George, calls him defensively a monster.
He's a pretty big kid.
Matignon is 0 for 1 on third down conversions, and they're going to be looking at a third down at 11. We have a timeout. Dan Lupo talking with his coach. East Bridgewater calling the timeout. Jack Radcliffe, the coach on the Matignon side, and the entire East Bridgewater club gathered around Ron St. George. This year, over 160,000 students will participate in high school sports competitions among the MIAA's member schools. Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association encourages you to support your local high school athletic program and the students who participate in them.
Here's a look at Dan Lupo right there.
Lupo, 6 carries, 17 yards so far.
Radcliffe had this to say about Dan Lupo. He says he's such a factor in the game. The teams are conscious of him, and it opens up things for other players. Coming into this game, Matignon has had a nice offensive balance in using some of the other backs. Patrick Moriarty, for one, number 34. That's why he's had 100 carries on the year. You concentrate on Dan Lupo, and Moriarty's going to run on you. But there's just no doubt about it. They have to contain Dan Lupo, as we talked about in the open, if they intend to be successful defensively against Matignon.
It appears that the Matignon football team has done a variation of what Matignon's hockey team has done historically. They always go to Mohawks during tournament time. The hockey club, 0 for 1 on third down conversions. Quinlan's going to keep it himself. Has some yardage, but not enough for a first down. Does get inside the 15-yard line, though. Is going to come up about 6 yards short. Brian McManus in on another tackle for East Bridgewater. He's been very active defensively for the Vikings. Fourth down now for Matignon. 4th and 7. Big play for the Warriors. Big play for the Vikings.
Down 1 point. This is what it's all about. You know, games hinge on plays like this.
4th down and 7. Handoff. Lupo swarmed short of the first down. Well short. Stopped at the 13-yard line. That assault led by George Simmons for East Bridgewater, and they take over on downs.
Big play for the Vikings right there. They had Matignon down in distance, and they go to their man Lupo. He's obviously being keyed on, and he just runs into a wall right there of humanity and knocked down short of the first down. The ball goes over on downs to the Vikings.
So East Bridgewater starts 1st and 10 from their own 13-yard line. Full house eye. McDonald hurdles a tackler, is out to the 15-yard line. Matignon has won some games big this year. They've scored a lot of points in their last few games. 36, 37, 34, 52-6 over Cardinal Spellman, 39-12. Those are their last 6 games. Coach Jack Radcliffe was a little bit concerned, he said, because East Bridgewater had been involved in more close games than his club had.
So if this comes down to a close game, they certainly have the experience.
Pitch for McDonald. Blockers in front of him. 20-yard line. Bulldogged out at the 22-yard line. That's Dan Lupo. There's a one-on-one. Lupo and McDonald, the 2 prime players in this game. And there's McManus.
Gain of 7 yards on the play.
This is well executed right here. There you get a good look at Tyler McDonald. He's out front blocking for McManus. He comes out around the outside, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, as if he shot out of a cannon, comes number 7, the ubiquitous Dan Lupo.
Well, they ran McManus out of the tailback spot that time. They have to bring the chains all the way across the field to measure this one. First down, East Bridgewater.
That's a key first down, because you remember last time East Bridgewater had the football, they couldn't move it. They punted the ball back to Matignon, and they had only 53 yards to go for a touchdown. They had very good field position. So it's very important for the Vikings to move the football down the field and get back into more favorable field position if they can't score on this drive.
62% of Matignon's points this year. McDonald, 55% of those for East Bridgewater. Last two possessions, East Bridgewater had done that 1-2-3 kick offense that you were talking about during one of the Boston College games, Gerard.
The Rocket style.
The Rocket style, right.
They're not going to expect this.
Got the timeout called for with 2 minutes and 15 seconds to go in the first half. The game has gone pretty much as expected, primarily on the ground, although the ball has been in the air.
You know what I mean?
Let's listen.
Instead of being down by 2 touchdowns, I'd rather be down by 1 and save our pocket plays second half.
It's on that jet trap, Coach, with Nickerson.
They mentioned
Got the middle? Got the middle on that?
And they're in a 4-3.
Talking about saving something for the second half.
pocket play, so we're going to see that in the second half.
Ron St. George, 19th year as head coach at East Bridgewater, is himself out of Northbridge High School and UMass Amherst. Kind of moved up the ladder of command, the chain of command, if you will. Coached freshman football, became a varsity assistant, now the head coach. He at one time also coached the semi-pro Plymouth Rocks.
A rather stolid coach. Nothing seems to be bothering him. Nice, calm voice.
Out to the 33-yard line for East Bridgewater on the carry is Darren Burkett, one of the co-captains of this East Bridgewater club. Warren Pierce on the tackle for Matignon. Mark Post over to the sideline, back into the huddle. East Bridgewater breaks. 1 minute and 50 seconds to go in the first half. 8-7 Matignon. Both teams scored in their first possession. Pitch, McDonald to the 35-yard line. A gain of just 2. Dan Lupo sticks his nose in there on another tackle for the Warriors.
It's a good play by Lupo. He's only 5'11", 196 pounds, so he is a bit of a fire plug, but he warded off an offensive block inside. I believe it was Scott Hunter. Shedded the blocker and went after the back, brought him to the ground.
Matignon's got some good-sized kids in there defensively. Jay Lyman, number 70, is a 245-pounder. Joe Zalewski, number 76, at 215. Dennis Toner, by the way, no relation to Boston College's Ed Toner, fullback. Toner is 235 pounds, a senior, and 6'1". And another timeout here at Nickerson with 1 minute and 36 to go. What a beautiful, beautiful day. Bright, bright sun. We look out over the Charles River, over to Cambridge, Storrow Drive, Mass Pike.
It's a great football field for these fine young athletes to display their skills. And they look forward to this all year, the beginning of the day, from the beginning of summer camp. I'd love to come out here and play here at Nickerson Field at BU.
Not that either of these two teams expected to be here, but not really a surprise that they're in the Super Bowl. Pre-season, they pretty well expected to be powers. Handoff. McConnell had McManus out in front blocking for him, and McConnell takes it out to the 42-yard line. Dennis Toner, talking about him a moment ago, number 77 on the tackle for the Warriors. The defensive captain calls the defensive signals for Matignon.
He's probably one of the biggest men down on that field, 6'1", 235. Here you get a look at him right here. He moves along pretty good, too. Finds the back, seek and destroy.
East Bridgewater tries the other side. McManus behind some blockers, picks up a couple of yards. Matt Mahoney for Matignon with a tackle. Down under a minute to go in the first half. 52 seconds.
Excuse me, Tom. Ron St. George, the head coach for East Bridgewater, would like nothing more than to allow their offense a sustained drive. Now the Vikings are going to call a timeout.
What it it was that Jack Radcliffe said about this East Bridgewater team is they've had some close games. They beat Rockland 10-7. That, by the way, was in overtime on a field goal by McManus, and Norwell 26-20. Radcliffe said they played very well in those games, and he said, I'm concerned defensively. We've always been able to score points, but they've stopped Rockland twice on the goal line stand, and they've won more close games than we have, and they have that experience of winning at the end. This one started out like it was going to be a big pile of points, with both teams scoring on their first possession, and since then has settled down into more of a defensive football game.
There's almost no replacement for confidence when the chips are down and you got to make plays. So East Bridgewater will definitely have the advantage.
East Bridgewater had to come in questioning whether they could handle Matignon's size. Now, after a half, and with a one-point ball game, they have to have confidence that at least they can do that. McManus going to throw it, has time, flips it short. It is complete at the Matignon 43-yard line. Pass was complete to John Trombley.
Big Dennis Toner's over there trying to cover Jonathan Trombley, 170 pounds versus 235. Just a razzle-dazzle right here. There you see him waving his hand. Hey, here I am, here I am. Hey, a perfect strike right there. You got to give credit where credit is due. East Bridgewater executed that play flawlessly, and they set it up off a timeout.
Timeout again with 28 seconds to go. East Bridgewater, that's McManus.
He's now 6 for 11.
He threw a touchdown pass in that game against Rockland. It was almost a one-man show. He threw the touchdown pass, then kicked the extra point, and kicked a field goal in overtime as he accounted for all 10 points. A loss in that game, or actually any of the others, and they might not have been here.
Oftentimes in high school there are one or two dominating players, and for East Bridgewater it's got to be Tyler McDonald and Brian McManus. Coming into this game, statistically he was 5 for 10 for 151 yards passing, and he's a running back.
McManus, probably the best all-around player that the East Bridgewater club has. He is their punter, he is their place kicker, can throw the ball, run with it, and you've seen him defensively making the tackles, does a little bit of everything for the Vikings. 28 seconds to go in the first half. Matignon 8, East Bridgewater 7. East Bridgewater with the ball, 1st and 10 at the Matignon 48-yard line. High formation with McManus at the wing on the left side. He goes in motion. Fake the pitch. Post throws over the middle. It is incomplete. And darn near intercepted by Brian Hardy, who got a hand on it, number 27 for Matignon. 23 seconds to go in the half.
Just trying to split the seam right here. Mark Post gets 3-step drop and tries to throw it over the linebacker. That's what happened. It got tipped by Dan Lupo, forced it behind the receiver, and went incomplete.
Post makes the jaunt back in from the sideline to the huddle.
So the clock will stop on the incomplete pass with 23 seconds. This is one of the problems that East Bridgewater has coming into this game. Mark Post had only completed 7 of 18 passes, so they don't have a passing attack for the end of a half.
Pitch, going to throw it again. McManus downfield. It's for Lawler at the 15. Lawler touchdown. East Bridgewater with 14 seconds to go. That is a 43-yard gain and a touchdown. East Bridgewater moves in front.
Sign of a quality player is how he plays in big games. Great execution once again by East Bridgewater. This time they're going to the right. Last time it was to the left. Number 42, Matthew Mahoney's back there on the coverage. And that ball is dropped right in there on the money to Willie Lawler, and 6 points for East Bridgewater and the lead.
They're going to try for 2. Or are they? They're going to call a timeout. They had McManus there, but the holder wasn't in the ball game. They had set everybody to the left side, so with 14 seconds left in the half, East Bridgewater has gone in front 13-8 over Matignon. 43-yard pass play, McManus to Lawler.
I guess they're on the sidelines trying to decide on what the ramifications of this are. We'll get to that in a minute. Here's the touchdown right here. The sweep around the outside. McManus, a right-handed thrower, now delivering the ball downfield to Willie Lawler. There's 42, Matthew Mahoney. The ball simply drifts over his head, and Lawler takes it in for the touchdown.
Yeah, that's a rarity. East Bridgewater has scored very few times through the air in the 1990 season. Lawler, second touchdown reception of the season, only his 10th of the year. They fake it, and Post gets close. Will they rule him in or will they not? He's right at the goal line. Nope,
they're saying that
did not make it. He was at the goal line, was hit down just short.
Well,
so the score will stand at 13-8.
We don't have the best angle from here, but from what I saw, it looked as if he had gotten the ball over the plane. We'll get a look at it right here. Just cuts it right up. That's 2 points. There's no doubt about it. They blew that call. That ball is over the goal line. Any part of the ball has to be over the goal line, no matter where it is.
Dennis Toner, who made the stop on the holder, who is also the quarterback for East Bridgewater, Mark Post.
Hey! Where was he on that?
There you go.
He wants to know, too.
Oh, that close? Was it his knee?
Lawler,
It's a score.
3 receptions, 55 yards.
East Bridgewater was robbed on that play. There was no doubt in my mind, based on that replay, that they shouldn't be awarded the 2 points. Of course, I don't know if I'd argue with a referee by the name of Don Thrasher.
Isn't that the Tank McNamara? Isn't that the name of the team that...
That's right.
Yeah, the Thrashers. 14 seconds to go. 13-8 is our score. East Bridgewater. McManus pops this one deep into the end zone. The man has a leg, and that's something to bear in mind if it gets close at the end, because he can kick them from a distance.
Absolutely, Tom. The wind is blowing a little bit in that direction, but that was a major league kickoff right there. That probably had about 3.5 seconds hang time on it and landed 7 yards deep in the end zone. A great weapon to have.
Talked about McManus and the importance of his leg to East Bridgewater. 2 games that they probably would not have won that they did this year because of his ability to kick the field goal.
One of the things they have to be careful, Jack Radcliffe and his team, is not to throw an interception down here. Only 14 seconds to go. You might want to be conservative. Give the ball to Lupo.
Quarterback keeps it himself. Quinlan still on his feet. Taken down after he gets 1st and 10 yardage at the 35. 6 seconds to go, and Matignon will call for a timeout. By the way, teams in high school football have more timeouts to call than you have in college football. There are 6 seconds left. Aaron Danielson in on another tackle for East Bridgewater. It's 13-8. East Bridgewater down to the final 6 seconds of the first half of play. Tyler McDonald scored for East Bridgewater on their first possession of the game. 6 minutes and 58 seconds to go in the first quarter. And then on Matignon's first possession, their quarterback Quinlan went 65 yards. They got the 2-point conversion to make it 8-7. And just moments ago, East Bridgewater, with 14 seconds left in the first half, hit on McManus to Lawler, a 43-yard pass play. And then on the conversion try, they faked the extra point kick. And the ruling was that the quarterback, Mark Post, who was the ball carrier, did not get into the end zone. Boy, the coach of East Bridgewater, Ron St. George, questioned the call, but the 2 points didn't go up on the board. And it is 13-8. East Bridgewater over Matignon. Matignon with the ball with what will likely be the final play of the first half.
The biggest story of the first half has got to be Brian McManus with 2 big pass completions out of his running back position. One, of course, the touchdown to Willie Lawler that put him ahead.
1st and 10, Matignon. They are 64 yards away. Quinlan lets fly for Lupo downfield. He didn't get it. Looked like it was there, incomplete for Lupo down at the 20-yard line, and that is the end of the first half of play. And our score at Nickerson Field in the Eastern Massachusetts Division IV Championship, 13-8, East Bridgewater.
Replay coming to right, play action. They're just trying to hold the linebackers up, but they're not fooled. You take your speediest guy, throw him down the right sideline. A very nice pass by Jeffrey Quinlan. But East Bridgewater was there. Had he caught that football, he still wouldn't have made it in. And a big hit by the ubiquitous McManus, number 35 for the Vikings.
You see Dan Lupo trudging off for halftime for the Matignon Warriors. Good first half of football in the Division IV Super Bowl game between Matignon and East Bridgewater. And it's 13-8. Game has been, Gerard, not exactly what we had expected. We had expected to see a game played almost entirely on the ground, when in fact some of the key plays have been in the air.
Well, the reason they've gone to the air is because East Bridgewater took over with just over a minute to go on their last drive, and they were basically in a position where they had to throw the football, and they went to McManus, who was 5 for 10, 151 yards and 2 touchdowns coming into this game, and he delivered in a very big way with a touchdown pass to Lawler. And Jack Radcliffe has got to be happy for Matignon that Lupo hasn't had to do all the work today, and his other backs have picked up.
Here's the game to this point. McDonald 6 yards for East Bridgewater on their first play following the opening kickoff. Matignon came back with a 65-yard run by their quarterback, Quinlan. They went for the 2-point conversion. Lupo got it, 8-7 Matignon, and that stayed that way until only 14 seconds left in the half, when East Bridgewater with a 43-yard pass play from McManus to Lawler. And McManus does about everything for this East Bridgewater team. Runs with it, throws it, plays defense. He's also their kicker. And controversial 2-point try on the conversion for East Bridgewater was called short of the goal line by their quarterback, Mark Post, who was the holder. And they tried to fake on the extra point kick, and he was held up short. So at halftime at Nickerson Field in the Division IV Super Bowl, it is 13-8 East Bridgewater.
If you concentrate on one particular player, as you get a look at the run right here by Quinlan, then this is going to happen to you. Good block downfield. Quinlan cuts it back inside, takes it the balance of the 66 yards for the touchdown and the go-ahead score.
Dan Lupo then carried in the conversion for 2 points, and Matignon was up 8-7. Stayed that way until late in the first half. With 14 seconds to go, Brian McManus hit Willie Lawler for the touchdown for East Bridgewater that gave them a 13-8 lead. And then a play that could turn out to be the big play of the ball game. East Bridgewater lined up as though they were going to kick, but then they faked it. The snap went to the holder, their quarterback Post. They tried to get in for the 2-point conversion, and it looked like he was, but
well, there's no doubt that he's in right here. They call that he didn't get over the goal line, but he puts the ball over the goal line. That's the only thing that has to break the plane in order for them to collect the 2 points. It's just a blatantly bad call. I think one of the officials down in the corner by the flag threw his arms up, and another official who might have been a little bit closer to the play had waved it off, but that 2 points is going to figure critically at the end of this ball game.
13-8 East Bridgewater is the score. We'll be back with the opening kickoff for the second half. The Eastern Massachusetts Division IV Super Bowl championship at Nickerson Field. Tom Larson and Gerard Valent will be part in the first half.
There's no doubt about that. They played well both offensively and defensively for both teams. And you take a look at some of the statistics. The first downs are 9 Matignon, 7 East Bridgewater. You get a look at the Matignon receivers waiting for the opening kickoff of the second half. And look at total rushing. The deficit is probably about 50 yards, and passing yardage, of course, is all attributed to McManus for East Bridgewater. The difference there, 30 yards.
Brian McManus, who will be kicking off for East Bridgewater, put his last kickoff about 6 yards deep into the end zone. Now the deep men for Matignon are number 7 Dan Lupo, number 27 Brian Hardy, number 42 Matt Mahoney. And it's Lupo in the middle. It's Mahoney over on the far side of the field, and Hardy on the near side. McManus, arm up. This is high but short, and taken by Hardy at the 15-yard line. Runs into some of his own people and goes down as he gets across the 25-yard line to the 26. Matignon trailing 13-8. Darren Burkett makes the tackle on the kickoff. What are your first half stats? East Bridgewater, the 6 first downs. Matignon 8. Rushing yards favoring Matignon. Passing yards favor East Bridgewater. Total yards Matignon. No turnovers either side. 1 penalty. Quinlan keeps it himself. Across the 30, taken down at the 32 or 33-yard line. Tony Farini gets in on another tackle for the Vikings. And Quinlan has been a force running the ball, keeping it himself. He has the lone Matignon touchdown.
He also had just under 100 yards with 98 in the first half. Of course, 66-yard jaunt really helped his average right there, but they started right where they left off in the first half with Quinlan running the football.
That still leaves him with 32 yards on his other 4 carries, which is 8 per try. Handoff to Pat Moriarty, the fullback for Matignon.
Pat Moriarty carries.
One of the other stories here as we get into the first part of the first half is East Bridgewater's efforts against Dan Lupo. Rushing Lupo toted the ball 7 times for only 11 yards, and his longest run is 6 yards. But keep in mind, this is a guy who has had 2 touchdowns at least in every football game this year and has had a long run of over 36 yards in every single one of his games. You take a look at his long rushes. They're 67, 68, 80, 83. This is a great effort by Bridgewater.
Moriarty powers for the first down for Matignon. I know that Ron St. George wasn't at all confident, totally confident they'd be able to stop Lupo. He said, I don't think we'll be able to stop him altogether. If we contain him to half his production per game, we stand a chance and can be in it. To shut him down would be a real tough task. I don't know how realistic that is. That's the quote from Ron St. George, coach of the East Bridgewater club, and basically they pretty much shut him down.
I think their defensive strategy is to put McManus on him, and he's done a terrific job so far today.
Flag goes down. Quinlan back to throw, fires. It is to Lupo, and he makes an awfully nice grab at the 47-yard line. He had it, then it was stripped, and he managed to catch it between his knees, but there was a flag down on the play.
Regardless of what happens with this penalty, this is just a great play. Perfect execution. Jeff Quinlan throwing the football with pressure. Now watch as he comes back to the football. He steps right in front of the defender who's waiting there to intercept it. Goes between his legs and he recovers it. There's the call by Don Thrasher. It's going to come back, and Matignon going to start over again. First down and 15.
It goes against the Warriors. Number 66 that you're looking at is 210-pound senior left guard Steve Buckley for the Warriors. Head coach Jack Radcliffe.
You know, Tom, Nebraska is taking a look at Dan Lupo. If they see that ability as a receiver, they may bring him in as a receiver.
Matt Mahoney gets the call for the Vikings. And East Bridgewater comes up with a big defense. It's a proud defensive club that they've got out there.
Tackle made by Bubba Rollins.
Bubba Rollins on the tackle for the Vikes. Second down and 7 yards to go now.
Here's the defense. Everybody runs with the play to the right side, and then coming off his block inside, it's 59 Clayton Rollins coming up with the tackle.
Bubba. Mahoney in motion. Quinlan to throw. Incomplete. Intended for Lupo. That was just a catchable pass.
Jason Billack, the underneath coverage, was there, as well as John Trombley. They were all over Lupo. They have got him bottled up today. He can't run a route without having 2 people around him. That last pass play had to come back and prevent an interception. And here's the coverage right underneath. There's Lupo to the left, and underneath is Billack, and on top is Trombley.
3 UCLA light blue colored jerseys out there with Dan Lupo. Quinlan drops again to throw. He is caught once, gets rid of it, fires long, all alone. Are they going to rule it a catch? Incomplete is the call. Hardy was alone, no one close, and he could not hold on.
He was wide open, as wide open as a receiver can possibly be, possibly too wide open, where he was nervous that he was going to drop the football, and that's exactly what happened. Quinlan buys plenty of time to throw the football, and there he is, all by himself.
Brian Hardy couldn't hang on. Nice job by Quinlan. He gets away from Aaron Danielson, somebody else.
Well, you know, they do the questionnaires coming into this game. It was a nice effort at the ball here, but he could have adjusted a lot better to it. And we take a look at the punt, but Brian Hardy's nickname is Ha Ha.
Lupo's punt. Thought they were just going to let it roll, but they pick it up, bring it back a few yards out to the 41-yard line. First and 10, East Bridgewater. Willie Lawler on the return for the Vikings.
That play right there is certainly going to figure in the outcome of this game. That was clearly 6 points for the Warriors.
7 minutes and 55 seconds to go in the third quarter. And East Bridgewater gets the football for the first time in the second half. 13-8 Vikings. Full house I formation backfield. McDonald cuts it for about 3 yards. Dakin on the tackle.
McDonald has 72 yards in the first half. He's really the only back that's lived up to the billing coming into this game. Moriarty for Matignon had a big first half with 78 yards on 6 attempts, his longest being a 12-yard run. McDonald is holding up his end of the bargain. East Bridgewater is on top.
McDonald again. First and 10, East Bridgewater into Matignon territory at the 48-yard line. Dennis Toner in on another tackle for Matignon. He is their leading tackler for the season, and I'm sure he is again for this afternoon.
A man of his size, 235 pounds, is just a monster down there in a Division IV Super Bowl. Here's another guy who shaved his head for this game, just like Lupo.
High formation, East Bridgewater. First and 10, McDonald again. Bounces off a tackler. McDonald still on his feet. May have another first down for East Bridgewater, and he's going to be closing in on 100 yards here shortly. Came into the second half with 72. That's 10 plus.
This is a mirror of what he did in the first half. The first drive, he had 6 carries for 41 yards and eventually popped it over for the touchdown. And here's his numbers to this point.
Now. And another first and 10 for the Vikings. Both of these teams in a Super Bowl for the very first time. Neither have been there before. Ron St. George, 17-year coach of the Vikings. And a penalty against Matignon is going to move the ball down to their 22-yard line.
I think the penalty was a personal foul. They were bouncing McDonald outside. Here you get a look at it. He's on the ground. And there it is. Warren Pierce.
6 minutes, 52 seconds to go, third quarter. East Bridgewater leading 13-8 and down at the Matignon 22-yard line. High formation ends tight. Blitz. Oh, big hit. That's Dan Lupo. Puts McDonald down for a loss of 4.
I don't know how Dan Lupo shot this gap. He did time the cadence perfectly at the time that the thing snapped. They have 3 backs lined up right behind the quarterback. He gets past the center of the guard, the quarterback, and the fullback to get to the ball carrier and tackle him for a 5-yard loss. That's a dominant player right there. He knows he's frustrated on offense. He hasn't contributed as much as he would have liked to, or as many people expect him to have at this point. So he's going to try and do it defensively.
Second and 14. McDonald again with blockers in front. Powers back to where the ball had been before the Lupo tackle was made, down to the 20-yard line. Third down for the Vikings and 8.
Excuse me, Tom. The Vikings have an interesting strategy. They run their quarterback, Mark Post, number 10, after every play to the sideline to pick up the play from Ron St. George. A lot of cases they'll run in a guard or they'll run in a back. But that man right there, Mark Post, is running wind sprints back and forth this whole drive.
Timeout, East Bridgewater, with 5 minutes and 47 seconds to go in the third quarter, and with a 13-8 lead over Matignon. And East Bridgewater has the ball down in scoring territory again.
At this point, McDonald's having a good game. He's over 100, closing in on 100 yards, if not over. But you take a look at some of the rushing leaders in the Super Bowl records. 370 yards by Scott Chester is the record from Leominster 1981-82 season on 30 attempts. McDonald has 95 yards, just 5 yards away from the century mark.
Just a remarkable day at Nickerson Field. Last year we were Well, we were cold.
I hate to even think about it.
We were cold. It was down about 0. And today you got the bright sunshine. It's up around 50 degrees or so. Expected a high by the time we reach mid-afternoon at the mid-50s. Wind, if it wasn't for the fact that neither of these teams throw the ball very much, could be a factor. We mentioned at the top of the game that it could be in the kicking game where Brian McManus has a real strong leg for East Bridgewater, and they come up now 3rd down and 8 from the Matignon 20-yard line. Again, that full house eye. McManus is the man in motion. Here comes Lupo again. Pitch back to McDonald. McDonald gets hit, dives to the 21. He will lose about a half a yard. And it'll be 4th and long coming up for the Vikings. Dennis Toner on another tackle, and they're going to spot that at the 22-yard line, which will make it a loss of 2 back to the original line of scrimmage. 4th and 10 for East Bridgewater.
I think everybody in the stadium knew who was going to carry the football. Their bread and butter man, Tyler McDonald. Student body left, and Matignon came with a full all-out blitz.
This could be, if it's good, a Super Bowl record. It's from the 29-yard line, and it's blocked. The snap was a little bit off to the right side of Mark Post. He had to reach out for it and put it down to spot it for Brian McManus. Pile up down at the goal line. Now a flag is thrown in the pile for the football down by the goal line.
Had the snap been on the mark, he would have had plenty of time to kick this football, but the snap was behind the holder. He had a little trouble getting a hold of it and then put it down. That's why it got blocked. Here's the call.
It's against Matignon. That's going to give East Bridgewater a 1st down.
This is the end. He's got the ball down. Then the pressure comes from inside. I believe that was number 77, Dennis Toner, that made the block. Oh, no, he's downfield. Hard to tell from the replay who it was.
Here's Ron St. George getting on the headsets to the people up top. Well, no, it's not a 1st down. It's after Matignon had possession, so Matignon has the ball, but they have it just about the length of the football outside of the goal line.
This is better than any punt. If they're going to have a field goal missed, it'll come out to the 20-yard line, but to have it down where it is puts Matignon in a very difficult position. That's as close as you can get. They had the penalty. It was about, if you take a look at the yard marker right behind the ball there, about 2 feet from the goal line. Then they had to go half the distance for the penalty.
It's only about 4 or 5 inches from the back end of the football to the goal line.
Here's where your quarterback center exchange is crucial.
Hand off Lupo out to the 2-yard line. Matignon just trying to get a little bit of running room right now. Lupo was upended after a gain of 2. It's going to be 2nd down. Matignon, 2nd and 8.
If you're Ron St. George, you got to be telling your defense, hey guys, got to hold them right here, because Matignon will be punting out of their end zone on 4th down, and East Bridgewater would come up with fantastic field position, possibly better than where they kicked their field goal from. So these next 2 downs are critical for both teams.
2nd down, Matignon. Lupo, left side, gets hit behind the goal line, gets out to the 5-yard line. A gain of 3. It'll be 3rd down and 6 for Matignon. Aaron Danielson makes the tackle for the Vikings.
Lupo still bottled in here. They get some penetration, almost get him for the safety, but his ability to cut up, plant that left foot, and change direction is really what has got him all of the accolades that he's received so far this year. 3rd down and about 6, and Matignon's going to call a timeout.
Well, it's been interesting for Matignon. Lupo has not been as dominant as his numbers for the other 9-10 games of the season. He has 15 yards for 8 rushes for the ball game. They came out in the second half throwing the ball, and now when they had the ball with their backs to the goal line, they have gone Lupo on the first 2 plays of this series, and they have now 3rd down and 6.
At one point, they have to decide, Jack Radcliffe has got to decide that Lupo's just been shut down, and they got to go to some of the other running backs like Moriarty or Mahoney, because obviously East Bridgewater is keying on Lupo, and the other 2 have got more yardage than Lupo does. The problem problem with this is that when you're in big situations, you want to go with your best athlete and hope that he can break a long one. And if you, I guess the philosophy is this: if you continually give Lupo the football, eventually he'll break one, and in a close game, that's really all you need. But they may be cutting off their nose to spite their face by being persistent in giving the ball to Lupo, because if he doesn't break one, the offense will sputter and die.
We're at 13-8. East Bridgewater. We're in the third quarter. 3 minutes and 51 seconds to go. Matignon down at their own 5-yard line. Quinlan keeps it himself. He is hit, stopped at the 6-yard line. Just back to the line of scrimmage, maybe gained a yard. Now it's going to be 4th down, and Matignon's going to have to kick. And that punt will come from the end zone.
And it will be into the wind, Tom. The wind is blowing that way. You remember McManus's biggest kickoffs were down at this end, where he put it into the end zone. They're going with Quinlan this time. They fake up the middle and get the block from the linebacker. A good cut. But this team, making up for their size, just swarms to the football, and East Bridgewater comes up with a big defensive stance and will get good field position.
Tony Farini in on that tackle for the Vikings. Punt for Matignon. Their only other one went only 22 yards. The deep men, probably deeper than they need to be, are Lawler and McManus. That's not too bad a punt. And it's going to be taken by McManus at the 44-yard line, running left. Away from one tackler, hit again, and no return, actually. Everything lateral. And Peter Avalini is in to make the tackle for Matignon. So East Bridgewater starts from the 44-yard line, and Matignon got it out of there in pretty good shape. 36-yard punt that time.
That was a very important punt to get it that far, and on top of that, the ball bounced, so that allowed the coverage to get back and make the tackle. East Bridgewater could have had much better field position than this. Here's the kick right here. Not much pressure. 36 yards end over end, and of course Lupo right there. McManus feeling it, and Matignon comes down and stops them outside their 40.
End split right. McManus is the wing. Pitch to McDonald. McDonald to the 40-yard line. Is he met by Dennis Toner or what? Right at the 40-yard line.
He is a tough linebacker inside there, and as we saw him earlier, he does move fairly well. He has a nose for the football game, no doubt about that. Taking a look at the beginning of this game, his statistics: 120 tackles, and again, he just pops McDonald right here.
That's what you call the immovable object.
Wow.
98 rushing yards for McDonald now on that 3-yard pickup. He is the lone running back behind Mark Post. A lot of power to the right as McManus goes in motion and leads the blocking for McDonald to the 35-yard line. That's another 5, and that puts him over 100 for the day. Lupo makes the tackle. Flag is down at the 37. Holding is the call against East Bridgewater.
That looks like the 10-yard kind. And East Bridgewater now is going to be behind and down in distance for the first time in this football game. You know, we talked about the discipline in the opening of this game, how East Bridgewater came running out on the field in 2-line straight formation and came out and ran their pregame warm-ups in a very disciplined fashion.
Second down and 17 for East Bridgewater.
This is one of the only first penalties against East Bridgewater, and that discipline has allowed them to execute flawlessly. Not to mention, Ron St. George is calling a terrific game, utilizing all his backs, his quarterback, McManus particularly throwing the football, which loosens up the linebackers and the defensive backs for when you run those sweeps. They don't come up as quick. They have their eyes on the receivers, so that allows you to make 5-6 yards at a pop.
And Brian McManus does so much for this East Bridgewater football team. He's leading the blocking for McDonald, carrying the ball himself, throwing passes. There's McDonald. Turns the left side, gets hit, taken down. Nice pursuit. Brian Hardy makes the tackle for Matignon. They strung it out over to the far side of the field, and the gain's only a couple of yards. It's going to be 3rd down and 15 for the Vikings.
It's a big open field tackle by Brian Hardy out on that right side. 5'10", 170, bringing down the 200-pound back. Here he is. He pursues it all the way from inside out and doesn't allow McDonald to turn the corner. If he gets that corner, he may have brought the ball inside the yard marker. Now they're under a tough 3rd down position.
5'10", 170 senior Brian Hardy. Wing back right. Fake the pitch. Straight up the middle comes Darren Burkett. Not as much as they needed, but pretty good run by Burkett. Peter Avellini for Matignon and hit on the stop. Right at you on this one.
He's got a good hole and a nice block right there on Toner. That's as good as you get on a big 235-pound linebacker that's dominating this football game defensively for the Warriors. There's a determined McManus trying for the first down.
4th and 6 for East Bridgewater at the Matignon 39-yard line, down to the final 9 seconds of the third quarter.
It appears as if they're going to allow it
to run out of time on the third quarter. They will just let it run out, and we'll go to the fourth. No scoring in the third quarter of play. East Bridgewater takes a 13-8 lead into the fourth quarter of the Eastern Massachusetts Division IV Championship.
Offering the utmost in quality and friendly personalized service is the family spirit that Sullivan taught.
And this has turned out to be, after both teams scored on their first possession of the game, a defensive battle. East Bridgewater scored 28, 31, 26, 35, and 35 in their last 5 games. East Bridgewater has been outscored in the fourth quarter this year, 54-47. That's a little misleading because a lot of times they're so far ahead that by the fourth quarter they have people in who don't play a lot. Set up as if they were going to punt, but no, shift into the eye, wing back McManus to the right side, quarterback is marked post, and they take too much time to get the play off. That's going to cost them 5. Matignon, in their last 6 games, has scored 39, 41, 52, 34, 37, and 36 points. This game has not gone that way for either team. It is just 13-8 with 11 minutes to play.
I'm not sure if that was the design to take that penalty, considering where they're punting from. I think they were trying to get the Warriors to come off sides, get the 5-yard penalty, and then it would be 4th and about 1, then you have the fake.
And a timeout has been called for. A little delay in the start of the fourth quarter. East Bridgewater with Ron St. George. They were talking about back in the first half saving what they called a pocket play for the second half, whatever that might be.
You're absolutely right, Tom. That might be something they bring out of their artillery shack late in the fourth quarter if they're ever down.
The scene at Nickerson Field. High school sports provide an extension of the classroom where students learn discipline, loyalty, emotional control, and the value of working toward common goals. And the MIAA urges you to support our young people by attending high school competition in your community. East Bridgewater, unbeaten, 9-0-0 for the year against Matignon at 9-1. Official trying to get the players back off of the sidelines, and now McManus is back to kick, waiting for the snap from his own 48-yard line. Lupo and Hardy are deep for Matignon. He boots it over Hardy's way. Good punt by McManus, and it goes into the end zone. Man was there trying to stay in the field of play and handle it, but it'll be a touchback. That was Willie Lawler. That was a smart play by Lawler, in the attempt anyway, but it'll be brought out to the 20-yard line. Matignon has been deep in their own territory most of the second half and will start now from their own 20, 1st and 10.
Here you get a look at it. The ball bounces inside the 5-yard line, about the 6-yard line. And this is a great play by Lawler. If he could jump up and tap this ball back inside the field of play, that ball stops inside the 5, and Warriors would start their second drive deep in their own territory. As it is, it's a touchback.
Here's Matignon needing points. Hand off Mahoney. Mahoney turns the right side to the 25-yard line, gains 5, second down, 5 for the Warriors. Tony Farini involved in another tackle, and John Trombley was in there for East Bridgewater. Coming in from the sidelines for Matignon, Jay Lyman, a 245-pound tackle. Hardy out to the left side. Quinlan going to keep it himself, rolling left. That's the play they scored on, and he only had one man to beat. It was Trombley who got him at the 40-yard line. And if Trombley hadn't made this tackle, Quinlan may have done a deja vu from the first half.
He sure can run with the football, and he's having a big day so far today. And there, another first down, he racks up. This is a great play by John Trombley, though. He played from the outside in. Here comes the pursuit across the field. You see, it's a quarterback keeper. He breaks perimeter, runs to the outside. Now, see the outside contain number 22, John Trombley has. And when Quinlan eventually cuts to the outside, he's there. He took down any possibility of a move.
Trombley, 5'11", 170. Quinlan to throw. Guns it long for Lupo. Incomplete at the 25-yard line. A lot of blue shirts back there with him, but Lupo thinks he should have had it, and Trombley was one of those. Willie Lawler was another one who was back on defense, and McManus.
One of the problems you have with a high school quarterback is he's not really sure of the play progression. That time, as expected, Lupo drew an awful lot of attention down the middle of the field, and running wide open is Brian Hardy on the right side. As they open the screen, you might be able to see him. There's his shadow on the outside.
Just off the fingertips.
Very good. This is a good pass. It's right on the money. I believe that one of the players did get their hand in there, and that was Trombley again, number 22.
2nd and 10, Matignon. 9:35 to go in the ball game. Quinlan under pressure, rolls left, and fires. It is complete to Lupo. First down at the 48-yard line. Flag is down back at the 40. Nice work by quarterback Jeff Quinlan to evade the rush, get the pass away, and complete it to Lupo.
This is a great athletic play right here. This is signed up for a pass from the start, and look at all this pressure right here. There's no place to go. Now throws going left, back across his body to Lupo. He gets over the first down marker, but it's going to come back as the penalty flag is thrown on the field against the Warriors.
It was Willie Lawler who made the tackle on Lupo. Here's the call. Against Matignon. So instead of the completion and the gain, they lose 5, 2nd down and 15 for the Matignon Warriors.
That was an eligible man downfield. That's also a loss of down.
Quinlan drops. Gets it away. Incomplete. At the 50-yard line. He was under some big pressure on the blitz. Scott Hunter, who was the man who was coming through on him for East Bridgewater.
He's already got 2 picks so far this year, so he can catch the football back there, and obviously you see his disappointment in not being able to come up with that one.
3rd down, 15 for Matignon. On 3rd down conversions, the Warriors 1 for 5. They got a long way to go. Got to get to midfield on this.
There it is. Just right through his hands. Chris Hunter, that's short of his 3rd interception of the year.
On the draw, Lupo gets tripped up, stopped at the 35-yard line. No gain on the play. Jason Trombley was the man who got in and got him around the ankles, threw him off balance, and Lupo wasn't able to regain it. Got just back to the line of scrimmage. It'll be 4th down and 15 for Matignon.
All the credit to the guys up front right there. 3 consecutive plays. The first 2 pass plays, great penetration on Jeff Quinlan and pressure, forcing him to make bad passes. And here, right from the inside, I believe that was Tony Ferrini that originally got his foot, and then eventually Jason Trombley came in and brought him down.
Snap. Lupo's punt. High and short. Not likely there will be a return. Vikings let it bounce, and it will be downed at the East Bridgewater 40-yard line. On the penalty. Ball is at the Matignon 47-yard line. 4 penalties, 16 yards against Matignon. McDonald to the 45, maybe the 44. Dave Dakin, the tackle for Matignon, a gain of just a couple of yards. East Bridgewater playing with the clock now as much as anything. 6 minutes and 25 seconds to go.
Ron St. George would love to see this offense just roll down the clock, because Matignon, although they do have somewhat of a passing game, their quarterback Quinlan can throw the football. You saw his completion percentage earlier in the game. If they can take this clock down inside 2 minutes on this drive, that will be the best defense that East Bridgewater would have played today.
On the reverse, McManus comes left side. He has a blocker in front of him. McManus is taken down. Nice defensive play at the 43-yard line by Dan Lupo.
This is what speed does for you right here. If you're a linebacker in the middle of the field, you can basically get to any play on the field. And when you have a late, long developing play like a sweep, Dan Lupo with his speed can catch up to it, come up with the tackle.
If Lupo hadn't made that tackle, there was another 10 yards in it for McManus.
It seems as if Lupo's just moving a step faster than everybody else. You saw that whole pursuit of 7 players, and then all of a sudden Lupo shot out of the pack for the tackle.
3rd and 6, East Bridgewater. Straight up the middle comes Tyler McDonald to the 38-yard line. Going to be a yard short of the first down. Zalewski makes the stop.
Great call. Excuse me, Tom. Great call by Ron St. George. They were keying on McDonald. McDonald has been carrying the ball the lion's share of this drive, and they fake the pitch out to the left side and give it to the fullback straight ahead. And what that does is the linebackers disappear after McDonald on the fake, and the fullback gets past the line of scrimmage. There's nobody at home to make the tackle but the free safety, which is what happened.
Oh, a big yard for East Bridgewater here to keep this drive alive. 4th and 1 on the Matignon 38-yard line. McDonald whacked. Very close to a first down. Very, very close. Official calling for a timeout and eyeing the chains on the far side of the field. Needed at least the 37. The chain is planted right at the 37-yard line. They're putting the ball just about at that spot. They'll have to measure this one.
Needless to say, this is an enormous first down for both teams.
Watch the mark. Well, you're not going to be able to. First down, East Bridgewater. By nothing more than inches.
Matignon just didn't have the penetration that they showed in the second quarter, which neutralized this very potent Viking offense. That lack of penetration may cost them the football game as the Vikings continue to roll down the clock.
First and 10. East Bridgewater, 4 minutes and 15 seconds to go. Into the middle of the Matignon line and a gain of 2 to the 35-yard line. Darren Burkett gets the carry.
I believe Matignon only has 3 timeouts remaining to get 5 a half. Obviously, you have to start considering that.
Second down and a little longer than 8 yards to go for East Bridgewater, and the clock continuing to run. 3 minutes and 43 seconds to go. If Matignon holds on this drive, they won't have much time to go the other way. What would be something like 70 or 75 yards. The pitch for McManus. He wants to throw it. Looks back to the left. Has to give that one up. Throws the other way. It is complete to Trombley at the 16-yard line. First and 10. Still on his feet to the 11-yard line. First and 10. Vikings at the Matignon 11. He wanted to throw it back this way to the left, but it wasn't there. Looked for his second receiver and found Trombley. Big first and 10 East Bridgewater.
3 for 3 now the Vikings are on this play. This time they're trying to fake it downfield with the pass of McManus and throw it back to the quarterback, Mark Post, after he pitches it. Mark Post isn't open, so he goes back to the original plan. Now Mark Post comes out, then he goes out for a pass. McManus looks back to Post, and there's no one there. But look at this protection and blocking, and in the face of pressure, throws the football downfield and a perfect strike for Jonathan Trombley. And the Vikings are in command of this football game.
Here's the pitch for McDonald, trying to turn on the left side. Gets a block, gets away, is hit, and gets inside the 10-yard line to the 7. Oh, fine piece of running by Tyler McDonald, who is in big trouble all the way down to the 7-yard line. Dennis Toner finally making the tackle on that earlier play, the pass play, that block that enabled McManus to get the ball away was made by Scott Hunter. Look at this.
Look at this. There's just a whole lot of blocking going on right here. The pulling guard on that side avoided a clip, but he was out there close enough to make Brian Hardy, number 27, there in the middle of your screen, go wide and allow McDonald to cut it up for a gain of about 5.
And a timeout for East Bridgewater. It will be 2nd down. Now they can get a 1st and 10 inside the 1-yard line. And the clock is in their favor. 2 minutes and 13 seconds to go.
The only problem with not making the extra point is if the Warriors stop East Bridgewater here and force them to kick a field goal, that means the score turns 16-8, which would still allow Matignon to score a touchdown, get a 2-point conversion, and tie the football game. Had they had that 2-point conversion, this game would virtually be over.
Dennis Toner, Matignon's prime defensive player, talking with Jack Radcliffe, the East Bridgewater side, the East Bridgewater cheerleaders. This has been a 10-play drive that started at the East Bridgewater 40-yard line. They have moved it now down to the Matignon 7-yard line. 2nd down and 6. They need the 1 for a 1st down. 2 minutes and 13 seconds to play. Matignon would really like to see some kind of a turnover. You know they're not going to throw the ball. But both teams have held on to it well. Fumbles have not been a factor. Full house I formation East Bridgewater's Vikings. They lead 13-8. McDonald hit at the line. Stopped for nothing. Warren Pierce, number 9, for Matignon to the tackle.
The only hope Matignon has right now to keep this team out. It would make sense, I think, at this point to call the timeouts between these next few plays so they can get the ball back with 2 minutes. If they allow the clock to run, and if this is effectively managed by East Bridgewater, they may be able to run this clock down inside a minute.
Now 1 minute and 40 seconds. 3rd down from just inside the 7. McDonald hit behind the line, stopped at the 9-yard line. Steve Buckley for Matignon, and now the Warriors call a timeout. We've got a field goal situation here as well, which if East Bridgewater could connect, would give them an 8-point lead. Matignon would only be able to tie.
That's right. Very smart play there, too. On 3rd down and about 6, they decided to run to the wide side of the field, which now puts the ball in the middle of the field, about the 9-yard line, which is exactly where you want to be for your field goal kicker.
Might mention, just because it is a possible, not necessarily a probable, we do have overtime in high school football, and the format goes like this. There's a toss of the coin. One team gets a chance from the 10-yard line. They get 4 downs at it. And then, depending on no matter what happens, then the other team gets a shot at the 10-yard line. If neither team scores, then it ends a tie. McManus is setting up for a field goal, would be spotted at the 16-yard line, would make it a 26-yard field goal. The kick is good. Makes it a 26-yard field goal by Brian McManus. They're all here from East Bridgewater. And for the moment anyway, a reason to celebrate. There will be 1 minute and 24 seconds for Matignon to get 8 points to tie it.
McManus in the first game of the season kicked a field goal with virtually no time left on the clock against Hamilton Wrentham, the first game of the year for East Bridgewater. And here he delivers with another big field goal, virtually putting this game out of reach for the Warriors. They've got a long way to come back with 1 minute 24 seconds to go in this football game. Only 2 timeouts left. Not much of a passing offense to this point.
McManus kicked another one, breaking a 7-7 tie in overtime for a win against Rockland. He's been a most impressive player for East Bridgewater all afternoon in the Division IV championship game. Back deep will be Lupo, Hardy, and Mahoney. Lupo, number 7. Hardy, 27. Mahoney, 42. McManus, you know, would like to keep the ball away from Lupo. He is in the middle, flanked on the left by Hardy and on the right by Mahoney. Line drive. Lupo, 10-yard line. 20. Runs into his own people. 30-yard line. Lupo to the 35, to the 37-yard line. With a minute and 17 seconds to go for Matignon. They are 63 yards away. Tony Farini makes the tackle for East Bridgewater. 27-yard return for Dan Lupo.
Things that stop the clock, of course, an incomplete pass. Anytime you run out of bounds, a first down just to move the chains, a penalty. Those are all the things that are Matignon's ally right now. And beside, they have just 2 timeouts.
Lupo is going to throw the ball. Fakes it. Now he's going to keep it tripped up down at the 38-yard line. Aaron Danielson in on the tackle for East Bridgewater. Bear in mind, the best Matignon can do is tie the game, make it Clayton Rollins who made that tackle. A touchdown for Matignon and a 2-point conversion would tie it. 16-8 is our score.
Well, turnabout is fair place. The only problem right here is that the Vikings know that they're going to throw the football. Here we get a look at it again. Well, we're not going to get a look at it, but Lupo is out on the right side. All his receivers were covered downfield, and he had plenty of room to run because the linebackers had taken such deep a drop. Instead of throwing the football, he should have ran the football. There you can see number 34 is the closest player to Lupo, and that's the linebacker, Darren Burkett. He should have run the football. He'd have had about 15, at least 15 to 25 yards.
Matignon, 63 yards away. A minute and 2 seconds left to go. East Bridgewater, 16. Matignon, 8.
Couldn't ask for a more exciting football game. We expected it, and we got it. The score's a little different than what we had thought.
2nd down and 9 for the Warriors. Quinlan fires over the middle, incomplete. Ball hit at the 48-yard line. Willie Lawler was there on defense for the Vikings. It'll be 3rd and 9 for Matignon. Less than a minute to play.
It seems the smart thing to do because they are keying on Lupo so much. To take him and split him out to the wide side, get all the attention out there, put Moriarty in your backfield, then run a draw. There's nobody home inside of 15 yards. Anytime the quarterback drops back at this point, you give the ball to Moriarty, who's having a day, and let him run the football for 20 yards.
Quinlan drops and throws out of bounds, stops the clock. Lupo had his back turned when Quinlan let fly, and it's 4th down, Matignon. Last gasp time, 4th and 9 from their own 37-yard line. The Warriors are 1 for 8 in the air.
Just 1 timeout left to go if Matignon does not complete this pass for a first down or run it for a first down. The game will be over. The Vikings will be able to run the clock down to 0.
53 seconds left. The East Bridgewater side. Quinlan bending under and back to throw. Going to have to run with it, and is taken down at the line of scrimmage. With 45 seconds left, celebration in the center of the field for East Bridgewater. All they have to do is to hold on to the football for the last 45 seconds to claim the Super Bowl championship. Clayton Rollins, Bubba, in to make the tackle that may have put it away for the Vikings.
3 sacks coming into this game, and this might be his biggest sack ever in his high school career. Makes the decision, instead of dropping back into coverage, comes up and challenges Quinlan, takes him to the turf, and secures the victory for the Vikings.
Bubba Rollins, senior, 5'11", 190 for East Bridgewater.
Formation, toe to toe. All right.
There's is Bubba. Tackle offensively and defensively, Ron St. George. Looking at his first Super Bowl championship. He's fairly calm, is he not?
We saw him earlier when he was talking about the pocket play. Whether we've seen it or not, I don't know. But he is very calm.
And Jack Radcliffe the other side for the Matignon Warriors. What a year they've had. 9-1 coming in. They finished by winning their last 7 games in a row. Seconds remain. East Bridgewater has the ball on the Matignon 35-yard line. All they got to do is snap it, touch down the knee. 40 seconds, 39.
They'll have to take one more snap, I believe.
Well, I'm not even sure of that. We've got East Bridgewater players over on the other side offering congratulations with Matignon. We're down to 23 seconds, 22. Mark Post, who has been sprinting back and forth from the sideline to the huddle, is just doing a little meandering job as the clock's down to 12 seconds now.
I think the officials just told them they don't have to run another play.
And they will not. 3 seconds. The clock has stopped at 3. So they're going to have to run a play. Well, they're not going to have to do a kneel.
Yeah, I thought the differential was about 3 to 5 seconds. At this point, it's academic.
Lupo, 16 yards on 10 carries for the day. Astounding. McDonald, 115 yards on 27.
Well, we talked about it. The mailman who delivered, who had the biggest day, will deliver the championship.
And that's it.
McDonald brought it home.
The snap. Mark Post flings the ball up in the air, and the East Bridgewater Vikings, for the first time in the history of the school, have won a Super Bowl championship in their first try. One of these two teams was going to do that because Matignon was here for the first time as well. Just let it develop out in the center of the field. And then you got the other side. East Bridgewater team that had gotten here with wins over Hamilton Wenham, Hanover, Bishop Peay, Rockland, Carver, Hull, Norwell, Abington, Norton, and the biggest one of the year, this one 16-8 over Matignon, and a Stanley Cup kind of a line set up. Congratulations both sides. Matignon in the gold and East Bridgewater in the UCLA blue.
Think about some of the factors of this football game. Everything came to fruition. If they were going to be able to win this, if East Bridgewater was going to be able to win this football game, they'd have to stop Lupo, and that's exactly what they did. They virtually neutralized his ability as a runner, kept him short. McDonald, on the other hand, rose to the occasion and had a very big day, and he was part of the story. But the big surprise in execution today is McManus.
There is the quarterback for Matignon, outstanding competitor Jeff Quinlan, who scored their touchdown. First series that Matignon ran, Quinlan 65 yards for their only touchdown of the day. And he was an impressive football player. There's the Matignon squad gathered on the other side. And somewhere in the middle of that, I'm sure, is Coach Jack Radcliffe.
Looks like all of the players from Matignon had shaved their head for this football game. Every single one of them. All the credit, you know, that win just basically was executed by the defense. The defense had a fantastic day. Lupo's longest run of the day was 6 yards. Considering his accolades coming into this football game, that is a remarkable accomplishment, a great defensive strategy, a great effort, particularly by McManus on defense, and terrific execution on their running back pass plays with McManus. 3 separate times when they really needed it, they made it work.
Let me just repeat something that Ron St. George, the East Bridgewater coach, had said. I mentioned it earlier, and talking about that man, Dan Lupo, number 7 for Matignon. He said, I don't think we'll be able to stop him altogether. If we contain him to half his production per game, we stand a chance to be in it. To shut him down, he said, would be a real tough task. I don't know how realistic that is. They did it.
They sure did, and it's realistic.
Final score. Super Bowl championship, Division 4, Eastern Massachusetts. East Bridgewater's Vikings 16, the Matignon Warriors 8.